lovely people interested in sustainability and a better world for all of us. Today I wanted to touch on the subject of how tourism impacts our coastline. This subject really interests me personally because I have, like many of you, a very close relationship with the sea. I love the sea, I love being close to the sea, and I love being in it. So I really want to know how to do that while still respecting and taking care of it too. The ocean is huge, it's so big, there's so much water out there, so much biodiversity. It's like a big, beautiful soup that we shouldn't really eat up. It's so big and complex, in fact, that I feel that we really can't get our heads around it, because if we could, we'd realize how absolutely hooked we all are right now. And maybe we do realize, more and more of us, and maybe that's why I'm making this video, and maybe that's why you're watching this video. Yes, we've been on the subject of sustainable tourism recently, the past 3 of our videos in fact, so go check them out if you haven't already. Recently I was in Lisbon, Portugal, and while I was there I had the chance to interview Sid Paes, a marine biologist who runs a company in Lisbon offering wildlife tours out on the water outside the city. Because Sid has experience with both wildlife and tourists, I thought he'd be a great person to talk to in order to gain a better understanding of the situation. So let's see some of that right now.
So I started working in ecotourism in 2008 in another region in Portugal. Since 2018 we opened CEO Tours, which is a boat tour activity here in Lisbon. So we want to connect people with nature. That's our, let's say, slogan. We develop some activities with customers, tourists, with schools, with private groups, with corporations. Our tours are more related with nature, so bird watching activity and dolphin watching activity. It's important to have a marine biologist on board during these activities, because not only because of my knowledge, but even if we have another colleague of mine, it is important for us to pass the messages to the final customers. The message that we are surrounded by nature. When I was a kid I thought that I wanted to be connected with the ocean. Somehow I was influenced by several people during my life regarding boat activity, regarding nature, regarding fishing, regarding animals in general. When I was a little bit older I thought, well, marine biologist might be a new career, which is quite recent though. And yeah, it's sometimes you don't feel like you're working. You just feel like you're living and enjoying the moment. Lisbon is, in terms of geography, it's quite interesting because you will have a big river, the Tagus River. It's born in Spain, so it crosses 1,000 kilometers. Before it connects with the ocean behind me, you will have this huge area, this bay, that is the Tagus Estuary. And this estuary will have the connection between the salt water and the fresh water that comes from the river. And so this area creates very interesting ecosystems, habitats, and a wide area for several species to enjoy. The relationship between the urban area, where you'll see traffic jams, you'll have a bridge at the back, you'll have trains, you'll have boats, you'll have trucks, you'll have a lot of things going on, but you'll still have nature. And nature is very close to us, it's surrounding us. The estuary is full of species, of bird species. A lot of fish species come here to spawn. The salt marshes are full of invertebrates that feed a lot of food chains also. And besides that, you'll have the ocean right here, the river mouth. So this ocean is full of wildlife. You'll have several fish species, you'll have a lot of seabird species also, but at the same time you'll have several species of dolphins, cetaceans, so dolphins, whales and porpoises. And so this relationship between the coastline, the river and the ocean is very, very interesting.
Sid told me something really interesting about how the dolphins changed their behaviour during the pandemic, and it relates to this urbanisation mixed with wildlife theme, and we're going to get to that in a moment.
And so we want to connect people with nature. Every day is a different day, and that's really magnificent, because one day you can see a puffin, the other day you can see a whale, the other day you can see thousands of dolphins, and that is amazing. For us it is amazing, so we imagine for customers that are not used to going to get so close to nature, it must be even more interesting. Sometimes we consider ourselves a little bit like we speak for the ocean because we are there a lot of days per week or during the year. We have the blue flag, and that's really important for us. Why? Because we try to promote these cleaning the beaches whenever we go out to the ocean or on any daily boat tour, collect some garbage. We explain that this is a problem of our generation and the future generations. We explain that plastics, there's no plastic that has been completely degraded because it's recent. We have like plastics for 40 or 50 years now, but they are still here. And you can see that on the beaches. We try to promote several beach cleaning and explain a little bit that the pollution that we are generating as humans has a huge impact in wildlife. Our main objective is to get more and more sustainable. Of course, we are dependent on fossil fuels because of our boats, but we are trying to go to the next level. We must think that we have to leave something to the future generations.
There are more than 600 million people living in coastal areas. That's about 10% of the world's population. 40% of the world's population live within 100 kilometers of the coast. I'm in Denmark right now, and it's quite small, and we all live near the coast. They say that every single person in Denmark is about 20 minutes away from the sea, no matter where in Denmark they are. And I can really believe that. So we have those figures. And then if you take into account that the United Nations World Tourism Organization tells us that in 2018 there were 1.4 billion international arrivals per year, and that 80% of those are in coastal areas. That's some wear and tear on our coastal areas and sea. So how does tourism impact the coastal areas environmentally? Just before we go any further, I hope you like this video, support us and our mission by giving us a thumbs up and subscribe and hit the notification button to keep updated with our videos. Here are just a few of the ways that tourism affects coastal areas, because folks, there are a lot of ways. I cannot go through them all in this one video. We're just touching base here, and I do plan to make more videos about this subject. One of the ones that I find really horrific is the building of these mega hotels and apartments to house all the tourists. This changes the natural landscape, and just bringing the materials in to do this sometimes by water has a terrible impact on the sea. There's actually a lot of damage already being done, but it's still going on. People are still making these huge hotels, and it's ugly. That also goes along with the building of structures such as jetties and huts out on the water for tourists. This affects the natural habitat. More boats going out and anchoring on coral and other important zones. Like, imagine it, there are a lot of tourists and they want to go out into the water, and they're all being taken out onto boats, and the boats are stopping in a really pretty place and throwing their big anchors down, and this is happening just way more than the area has ever been used to, and it's damaging a lot of the habitat underneath. Overfishing because of high demand for seafood. You have more tourists, more people, then more people want to eat. They're by the coast, and people love to eat seafood while they're by the coast. So this causes a lot more local fishing. And a lot of people think that if it's caught locally, then somehow that's kind of better, but no, because if it's overdone, then obviously that's going to also harm the environment. More waste and pollution of the water. Just as a very simple example, sun lotion. A lot of people need sun lotion, and it's packed full of chemicals, and sometimes you go into the water and it looks like an oil slick, and you know it's from like everybody's like sun lotion. Waste and pollution from tourism is just huge. It comes out of the big hotels, and just the waste that people are throwing, the plastics, everything. It's just to a huge extent. Pestering the animals. A lot of tourists interfere with local wildlife, and that can cause a lot of distress and unnatural behaviour, which is why I feel it's important that if you're interested in local wildlife of an area you're visiting, to take the time to learn about the animal so that you know how to respect its natural habitat and behaviour, and even better, get yourself like a local guide, because part of more sustainable tourism is getting to know the local professionals and using their services rather rather than those of a big company from elsewhere. Good local professionals who truly care about their environment will be able to guide you while keeping you and the environment safe and teach you about their local wildlife. If you find yourself in Lisbon and you're interested in getting to learn more about the local wildlife, go take a look at their website. I've added the link in the description below. Tourists on the beach obstructing wildlife from getting on with their usual beachy habits. Like, think about it. There's like some guys sunbathing on the beach, and then Mama Turtle wants to get on the beach and kind of like lay her eggs. Actually, I don't think they do that during the day, do they? Or do they? I'm not sure. Let's check that out. I did a bit of research, and it turns out that most species do lay their eggs at night, somewhere between 11 and dawn. But some of the smaller species nest during the day. Baby turtles also wait till nighttime, usually, so they can avoid being seen by predators during the day. I did come across a really interesting article called Risk Assessment of Wildlife Watching Tourism in an Important Endangered Loggerhead Turtle Rookery. They studied how turtles behaved while being watched by tourists, which is pretty cool. They stated in their article, "Our results indicate that turtle watching did not affect nest construction, oviposition, or the nest covering phase, although there was significant reduction in the duration of the nest camouflage phase in the presence of tourists. When the female was tagged after oviposition by a small team of experienced researchers, volunteers, no alteration of any nesting phase was observed." So they found that the turtles were obviously affected when there were tourists there. And I guess nest camouflaging is pretty important, because if you don't camouflage your nest, it's gonna get eaten, or at least the eggs will, maybe not the nest. Okay, here's the interesting story about the dolphin behavior that I told you about earlier.
Well, we are used to this sound every day. And so it is a sound that is, at least since my generation, we're used to it. And our parents' generation also, because this was built in 66, so it's quite old now. But of course, more vehicles, more noise. But at the same time, the situation happened because of COVID, which was, we were all in lockdown, and suddenly you started seeing dolphins going inside the river. Okay, this happened, this was a phenomenon. Last year, 2020 and 2021. We had several days that we exited here the dock, and suddenly the dolphins were right below the bridge. And wow. I'm not saying the painted dolphins that are in the pillars. No. I'm really saying the real dolphins. They were here during it was news in several newspapers in France and so on. And some people came to us, "Oh, well, we've been hearing that there's been dolphins here in Lisbon." Well, yeah. And fortunately, we are, let's say, one of the only companies that's been working here for more time, right? And during the whole year, because there's companies that only work during summer and that are not really focused on this activity. Okay? We are completely focused on these nature boat activities. And what is interesting is that every time we go out, we collect data of the sighting location, of the hour, the number of individuals, the species, last year we've been seeing them a lot of times. Around 90 days in a row they were here, since June until September. So that's incredible. So we saw them quite often here in the river. We saw more than one species, and that's quite awesome.
In the past, I've had dreams of being surrounded by dolphins, looking towards a dark cityscape from where I swam out in the ocean. I've always felt the weight of these borders, and in my dreams, I'm always on the animal side. But now my children and their future is also in my thoughts. I dream of protecting our human world too. We must find pragmatic ways to coexist with wildlife again. Professionals like Sid help us work towards this every day. Tourism is a powerful economic machine that keeps growing. I really believe that if we can figure out how, we can use it to fight this climate crisis. Thanks for watching. Stay with us as we explore all things sustainable. See you again soon.